Hello VC, Tony here. Tony's LPs are us in Studio E. As you can see, the Elvis light is on. We are recording. But this is just a quick little segment I'm going to do about this great album soundtrack to the motion picture Head. Released in November 1968, premiered in New York City. Nicholson co-wrote. Nicholson also kind of coordinated this record. It's kind of a bizarre album. It's a soundtrack album. The movie's totally bizarre. If you've seen it, if not, it's on YouTube. You can watch clips, you can get the gist of it. But I think the movie, 55 years plus, holds up probably more so than it did when it was originally released, as far as we've caught up to this bizarre episode of a collage of a film, which I'll go into a little bit, and then I'm going to talk about the record. But this was directed by the famous Bob Rafelson, and he also co-wrote with Nicholson. And I think Rafelson went to Nicholson and said, I want you to, he goes, you write movies, and Nicholson at that time was more into directing and more into writing screenplays than being an actor. This was 68. He had done a few low-budget films, Little Shop of Horrors, a Gorman film, and, he was a writer, basically. He wanted to write. So he told Bob Rafelson, I could write you a movie that would be a hit, or I could write you a movie that will make no money. And Rafelson said, write me the movie that will make me no money. And this movie made no money. Box office was about $16,000, which is kind of hard to believe. And maybe $16,000 in today's money is $120,000 or whatever off the top of my head. But the movie cost $750,000 to make. And I don't know where they put the money, because it's kind of all shot on a back lot, basically in LA at a studio. You could tell it was very simple, a lot of costumes, a lot of extras, a lot of beautiful girls. Just little clips of films, and I'll go into that. But I'm talking about the soundtrack, and the reason I got into this soundtrack again is because I'm reading this book on Jack Nicholson's life. I'm doing an audio commentary next week or 2 weeks with some friends. We do audio commentaries for Blu-rays, and we're doing it on Nicholson and Brando's The Missouri Breaks. So I study up on my subjects, and I don't know much about Nicholson. Nicholson is a lot deeper than what you would think as far as face value. He doesn't come off as irreverent in his actual life than he might do on some of his films or some of his interviews. He's a very private guy, but he's cool. So I'm reading this, and they were talking about, working with the MONKEES on Head. Now, the MONKEES series was just canceled, and they wanted to do a film to basically continue the momentum and maybe even change the perception of this fabricated, put together, paint by numbers band. So they came up with this motion picture, and that motion picture was Head. And the reason they called it Head was Rafelson was also going to release Easy Rider the following year. This is with Jack Nicholson, Peter Fonda, Dennis Hopper. And by the way, Dennis Hopper has a little uncredited cameo in this movie, as does Jack Nicholson and the director. But the director said, well, we called it Head because the next movie we were going to release was this one. And by the way, this is an excellent soundtrack. Maybe I'll do something about this later. This is a full rock soundtrack before rock music was incorporated into album soundtracks. This is probably one of the first ones. But Bob Rafelson said, we wanted to be able to have the headlines on the tagline on the poster for Easy Rider is, from the producers that gave you Head. And he said that didn't work out because the movie was a complete bomb. And like I said, the movie was so far beyond what the MONKEES persona was at that time. It was the complete opposite, the complete parallel universe, bizarro world. Now, this is one of the first movies I remember begging my parents to take me to see. I was 11 or so at the time, 68. And I remember going to see this film, and I was a big Monkee fan. Every kid was on television. The Monkees were, Hard Day's Night personified. That's where they got the concept from. As you know, it was basically a put-together band, but very talented kids. Actually, Stephen Stills from Crosby, Stills and Nash and Young tried out for one of the parts, and it was Peter Tork, Mickey Dolenz, Michael Nesmith, and who's the other guy? Davy Jones. Davy Jones, and the only one living right now is Mickey. Everyone else has passed. So anyway, the bands, they got these guys together. They started playing some of their own instruments on, I think, a couple of the later albums. On this record, they played most of their own instruments, although Michael, on a song called Circle Sky, I believe, had session men in it, and the Monkees weren't happy. The rest of the Monkees weren't happy about this. But Michael, being the real musician of the band, insisted on that. But this album is great. The music is fantastic. It's really far out more psychedelic than anything the boys ever did while they had the TV show. So anyway, this movie was supposed to show them to a more mature audience. They were hoping that rather than kids and teenagers would open up their money, their wallets, and their hearts musically to the Monkees. It didn't happen, but I went with my parents. We were down AC at the time, and I remember seeing it at a screening at the Steel Pier. They must have had screenings there, and I was I was like completely bummed out. I had no idea what was going on. It was, all these different connotations. It was cut up. The beginning the movie was actually the end of the movie. Very Fellini on steroids, Fellini on LSD, which is funny because the director indicated when he actually put the movie together after the script was kind of co-written by him and Nicholson, he was on LSD. Nicholson and Bob, when they co-wrote it, were doing pot, and when they co-wrote it, they actually had the four Monkees speak into a microphone, and like as a just as a like a think tank where they were going to come up with bizarre ideas. So the Monkees were there: Paul, Mickey, Davy, Mike, Peter, not Paul. Thinking of Paul McCartney, but he wasn't there. So anyway, they all spoke into the mic, into the tape recorder. They were giving their ideas, and they thought they would get writing credit. Bob said, "We're not giving you guys writing credit. It's going to be written by Jack and I." And they were pissed off. They really wanted to get writing credit. They also wanted to direct, but that didn't happen. So when they were told, "We're not going to give you guys credit," they actually staged a boycott. Michael Nesmith allegedly had all the recordings and said, "I'm keeping these recordings until you guys kind of do a compromise with us." But that didn't happen. The compromise was that the Monkees, the four lads, were going to get more money for their role in the film rather than credit. So they never got credit. They never got directing credit. But maybe they didn't want directing credit. The whole concept of the movie, as far as I've gathered, is that the Monkees are escaping. They're running from everything, and they're running away from themselves. They're running away from the band that was on television, that four American Monkees, American Beatles as the Monkees. They were running away from that persona, running away from that image, and they're constantly running. It opens up with them running through a bridge that was just being christened, running through the tape and diving into the water, and we find out that is going to be that image is going to come back to us toward the end. Spoiler alert. But there is no spoiler alert because I don't think any of you guys that haven't seen it yet will sit through the whole thing. It's kind It's kind of bizarre. But like I said, if you love beautiful women, swinging 60s type of thing, if you like the Monkees music, there's songs paced pretty well through the movie. Some great Monkee songs, and I'm going to go into the Monkee songs when I talk about the actual soundtrack. There's clips of them playing that one song that was written by Michael Nesmith. Each Monkee gets a little chunk solo time in the film. They all get equal billing, so there's maybe a 3 or 4 minute segment or maybe more where it's only the one Monkee and he's going through his changes, similar to Ringo in Help, when Ringo wanders away and gets his little moment where, you know, he's by himself and not with the band. But overall, I watched the movie the other night before I did this review. I had seen it years ago. Originally, like I said, when I was 11 or 10, 11 or 12, I didn't know what was going on. Their whole idea was to cultivate a new audience, an older audience, and that never happened. When you make $16,000 on a national film with TV stars in it, you know, that's bad. The record only peaked at number 54 or 45 on Billboard, and the Monkees record were always up there with the Stones and the Beatles and the Who and the Mamas and the Papas. They were top 10, top 20 at least. So this soundtrack, as well as the movie, was a dismal failure. But I love the soundtrack. Here's the actual Rhino reissue that I have. I do not have an original. I wish I did. I might have had once and lost it in the flood. Who knows? But a fantastic soundtrack. It's only 15 minutes aside, so it sounds pretty good. Although this pressing, I think it has some mid-range and some bass missing, but vocals are good, acoustically, treble-wise, has great sonics, and the boys sound great. It's a very trippy record, and that's what Nicholson was into. Nicholson was into tripping. He wrote The Trip. He wrote Easy Rider. He was into that at that time. So you get that feeling. And he coordinated the actual album. And you could hear him on outtakes. If you go to YouTube, there's a bunch of outtakes of this record. I believe there was a CD issued, a double CD that had outtakes on it. This record, like I said, is only about 15 minutes aside. It goes really fast. So it does sound good because you get a lot of plastic in there. As far as the music, it goes in bands: Band A, Band B, Band C. The Porpoise song is the theme from Head. That's the Monkees. That's really good. It starts off with dialogue from the movie, and the dialogue is spliced in between the bands, which is cool because I used to like that. I remember getting one of the first records I bought was the Bonnie and Clyde soundtrack. I guess I was into, bang, shooting them up. But I love that. I love that movie, and you couldn't get a cassette. There was no movies back then. You had to get the soundtrack or a program. So in Bonnie and Clyde, there's actually dialogue, and I've actually memorized from hearing that record so many times. I know dialogue from the film. But this is kind of different because this is bizarre, cut up collage stuff that doesn't make a lot of sense. Band 3 is Diddy Diego War Chant. I guess it's written by the Monkees. It may have been written by Nicholson. Let me just see. Let me just see on here. It's on the label. No, Coffin, it doesn't have it, but I think Diddy Diego War Chant was written by Nicholson, because you could hear him on the outtakes instructing the guys on how to sing this chant. And what this is, it's the opposite of Hey Hey We're the Monkees. It's telling the folks out there, telling these little 12 and 13-year-old kids who went to see this movie that, we're not what we seem. We're not really those guys anymore. They were put together. They were tin soldiers. They were getting paid. to act like this, to act zany. We're not those guys. So that's what that song's about. Circle Sky is a great song written by Nesmith. Band E is Subalexio, which don't know what that is. Can You Dig It? Another great song by the Monkees. Band G is Gravy. It's only 5 seconds, just a clip of a sound bite from the film. Side 2, so that's it, because it's a 15-minute record. Band A is Superstilious, and you start off with hearing Bela Lugosi quote from a film that they show in the movie. So you get to hear Count Dracula. As we go along, the Monkees, great. And then there's this bizarre clip where the boys in the movie are escaping, and they're running through this factory, which is on the back lot, I guess, of one of the studios. And they're trapped in this box. And then you see a bunch of wigs, like mop tops. And the director is saying, go on, you're dandruff. So they were acting like the dandruff. So who thought of that concept, right? So the boys are dandruff, and that's 40 seconds. Daddy's Song, which is written by Harry Nilsson, is performed mostly by Davy Jones, the Monkees. And then we have the long title, Do I Have to Do This All Over Again, the Monkees. And then we have a Swami who actually is giving like this metaphysical soliloquy, and then Davy Jones picks up on that, and then I think the movie starts over again where you see them running toward the bridge because the Monkees are escaping. Now, it's a hard movie to describe because it's not really a coherent film. As far as the music goes, I think the music's great. The songs that the Monkees perform on here, if you could see there, without the glare, it has a little bit of I have a wrapper over it. But the Monkees' music is some of their best work, and it's a shame because they're actually grooving. It's actually psychedelic. It's very Beatles. There's Strawberry Fields Forever. And don't forget, this was right on the heels of Pepper, Yardbird stuff. The music was changing. The California scene, which the Monkees were part of. These guys were friends with everybody. They knew Stills. They knew everybody from Laurel Canyon. They were real rockers. They played hard and they partied, and on very much the antithesis of their screen presence on the TV show, which, like I said, the kids were little kids watching this, and that's why they saw so many records, because they're on television. Every couple of months, or every 6-7 months, a record would come out. Kids would get the money for their allowances and their parents, and they would go buy Monkey records. They were $4 or $5 at the time. As far as cameos go, it's loaded with cameos. You got Frank Zappa. You have Jack Nitschke, who is the Green Bay Packer. I believe he was a linebacker or a guard. You have, like I said, Nicholson is in it. Let me see here. It's so bizarre. So bizarre. Let me just check out my notes. Sonny Liston is in it. Annette Filicello. Victor Mature, who played Samson, is in it. There's a bunch of uncredited people, and it's just a crazy film. It runs about 86 minutes. The original was about a little bit above that, maybe another 20 minutes, which they cut for whatever reason. They should have left it in. I don't think it made much of a difference. Like I said, the movie kind of holds up better for me now than it did when I first saw it, obviously, and when I saw it probably 20 years ago. I couldn't watch it. One interesting thing I picked up is Mickey Dolenz, throughout the film, from the beginning and in and out the film, no matter what outfit he has on, he's wearing Adidas sneakers, which are Gazelles, the 3 stripes that you see some of the rappers wearing later on. So Mickey's wearing that throughout the movie, and I thought that was pretty cool. There's also, I think, the actor who played the Atomic Colossal Man, a real big ugly brute of a guy. He's in it. There's soldiers in it. There's an all-black regiment of soldiers. Probably the only African Americans in the film, although I did see a few people scattered in between some of the extras. But the black regiment were all in khakis with helmets. And then later on, they were actually in the movie again in one of the back lots when the Monkees were being pursued by a cowboy division, Western guys dressed in Western wear. It's bizarre. There's a desert scene with an Italian tank regiment who ends up surrendering to, I think it's Mickey, because Mickey is battling a Coke machine, a Coca-Cola machine in the middle of a desert. He's thirsty. The machine is empty. He's freaking out. So it's totally, totally bizarre. So I don't know what else I could say about the movie, but it's from the producers who gave you Head. And that's what they were going to put on the Easy Rider poster, but that never happened. And just a great album. If you don't have it, pick it up. There's plenty of copies used. This is a Rhino reissue. I think there was also an audiophile issue that is kind of pricey in the $50 range. When I was looking this up, I saw that. So that may have more of the mid-range and more of that bass that is not there. But as far as sound quality, other than that, in my system, I lost a little bass, but it depends on your system. It's just my opinion. It's from what I hear. But as far as other people who were in it, like I said, Frank Zappa. Frank Zappa has an interesting quote. He's on the back lot of one of the scenes. They're in the back lot of a studio, and Davey just did his song, which was kind of a Broadway. Great, he's so talented. It was just I met all the Monkees, and they were really cool. I met them at conventions. But Zappa says to Davy Jones, song was pretty white, which is 1968. That's kind of, song was pretty white. And Davy responds, well, so am I. What can I tell you? And that was it. That's that little clip. And then you see Zappa with the stash. I think he's leading a horse. So just a funny movie. It's, like I said, it's a Fellini, Italian type of thing that's bizarre. If you ever watch some of those Italian foreign films, they're very dreamy-like, they're very trippy, and that's what this was. But overall, I would recommend that you see it. You gotta experience it, and then when you do see it, you get to see that the music is good. And the music, from what I watched on YouTube, obviously, is maybe a mono soundtrack or not a well, integrated audio on a YouTube channel. But when you hear the record really sounds good. So keep rocking. The Monkees. Only one left, Mickey. I hope you see this. I hope you tell me you've seen it. Do a little comment. Like I said, I met them all at conventions. They were all pretty cool. So keep rocking. And if you haven't subscribed, I wish you could. And I want to thank everyone that has subscribed to this channel. We're trying to build the channel up. We're trying to give you the content that I think you'll enjoy. But just once again, the Monkees give you Head. And keep it going. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot, and thanks again for all the subs. Leave comments. Let me know what you think about this record. You probably haven't dusted it off in a while. This series was on, I believe, 66 to 68, 69, when this record came out in 68. So let's keep it going. Keep rocking. Ciao.